Fun fact, I have already made this video before. I made it, so you know the theory route slash strat idea video? I recorded a video for this on the same day. In fact, I did it before that video, just before recording that video. And that was like 8-9 days ago. However, I changed my opinion a lot since then. In fact, well, I changed my opinion, like, pretty much immediately after making the video, and so I'm redoing it, and I've thought about it even more this time. So, this is gonna be a pretty long video, I think, but I think it's a pretty interesting one. So, what we are doing is the idea of Loadless, you know, the advantages and the disadvantages. So, Loadless, in this case, I have random gameplay. I'll just be playing in the background. It's pixelated right now, but it'll fix itself like 20 seconds in or something. But it'll just be getting rid of, like, you know, the generic load screens. That's it. Those will not be factored into the time whatsoever. There are other load variances, but that is the big one, and it will, you know, with this, it'd be gone. However, I realized after recording the original video that there is almost no good reason not to also allow hard drive if you are going to allow loadless. There are a couple disadvantages to allowing both compared to only loadless, but there are a lot more advantages and disadvantages. So, with hard drive, you have to soft mod. You can hard mod, but you know, generally soft mod your Xbox. And then you could put the game on the hard drive and then play it like that. It makes load variance significantly less of an issue. But it does have downsides, and Loadless actually gets rid of a couple of hard drive's downsides. They actually complement each other quite well. So, this video... So, first we're going to go over why not hard drive on its own, then we're going to go over why not loadless on its own, then the advantages and disadvantages, well, the advantages, then the gray areas, and then the disadvantages of loadless. But when I say loadless, it'll be with hard drive, when specified. But right now, I'm just going to play the video, play the PB. Again, it's pixely, but it'll fix itself in a sec. And we are going to first go over why not hard drive on its own. The first reason why, number one, removes lag tech entirely. Cool factor, consistency, and removes aids. This is true. So, this game has lag tech, I'm sure you all know. Being able to, like, buffer tokens, buffer damage 1 frames, but also a few other things like clipping through the ground and cool things like that. These things are visually interesting, you know, it's good for the viewers, but it also just massively increases, consistency. And we would lose that with hard drive on its own. Unlike BFBB, the lag tech in this game is actually very consistent and strong. Although in BFBB they don't need to worry about it anymore because they allowed hard drive, and we currently do not allow hard drive. But yeah, our lag benefits the game a lot more. In fact, it got proven recently. So, you know, token 2 frames, you already know. You know, the game advances 1 frame when you press start, as can be seen in the gameplay right now. However, instead of pressing start a frame before going into the token, I did lag inputs. They're not free, but it's easy, you know, get a feel for it. It takes a few days, but then it's easy. It would just, like, make the game significantly less consistent. You know, having, like, over 10 token 2 frames, but, like, it allows you to just, like, get more consistent more quickly, get into mid and late game more often, and it allows you to then, you optimize your times more quickly, and then you implement more difficult strats. It just makes you a better player in a faster amount of time. But it's also, like, ground clips and stuff. I said I wasn't going to do this, but I actually will show the lag clips for Planktopolis because we are already in Hundo. Where the hell are the lag clips? Bro, where are they? Okay, here we go. This is, not in every category, but this is a very good it saves like 20-something seconds, so on its own, without Loadless, hard drive would obviously be faster for hundo, but then you wouldn't be able to do this. It's pretty cool. You know, you set your spawn, and then you grab this token, and then you get to do this, like, backwards. It's pretty cool. And then you get to do bungee without the MIV being spawned, and the MIV can really fuck you here, so not having to deal with it is really cool. And then after collecting the token, and then you do this slide clip, and again, it saves like 20-something seconds. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Alright, now we're just gonna go back to, roughly wherever I was. So, there's that, but it's also, it'd also mean, like, so, early powers has so much lag tech that it probably is faster on disk compared to hard drive, so we wouldn't really need to worry about that. Well, you do, because, like, the thing is with that is that, like, if only hard drive were allowed, everybody would just go to hard drive, and then people would not be encouraged to run early powers, because they might have bought a hard drive with, like, a bad disk drive, and then, like, they have bad loads, and they're just discouraged from running the category. Additionally, like, it's not even, like, nobody would have done lag. Like, all these, like, new wave of runners that would be playing on a hard drive, they wouldn't even be able to do, like, they wouldn't know how to do it. It would just be discouraged. They don't want to learn how to do that, you know, just for one category. There are other categories that benefit from lag as well, like old world tokens, but hard drive would just be too fast for those. Because they're on extensions, we could say, like, oh, disc only, Lamau, but, like, why? That's pretty hard to justify. But yeah, like, lag tech is considered by a majority of players to benefit the game, because then it's way too cancerous at top level. The top level runners stop playing. Because the top level runners stop playing, like, there are less streamers for people to randomly find on Twitch. Less beginners are likely to get into the game because of that, and intermediate players have a really hard time transitioning to the top level, and it becomes too discouraging and they don't play. So, yeah. However, of course, if you have Loadless, then you can do the lag clips anyway on disk. Number 2, screws over 360 even more. So we will get to this eventually anyway. However, 360 has faster loads than OG, and that would just not even be a factor, right? With Loadless, which means that 360 would get screwed a little bit from Loadless. However, from hard drive, it's even worse, right? For some reason, 360 hard drive is actually pretty damn slow, whereas on OG, it's pretty damn fast. So, you would never play on 360 hard drive. It's so slow that it's slower than disk. I don't know how, but it's actually a lot slower. It's like a fucking OG Thompson. I don't know how it's so slow. But it would be even worse. I should mention as well that, 360 to play on hard drive for 360. With OG games, you have to hard mod it, but that doesn't actually matter. That's not a point, really, because, you know, you wouldn't even... 360 wouldn't have faster loads than OG anyway with hard drive, so it doesn't matter. I'm just, you know, just pointing it out. But yeah, so only having hard drive would screw with 360 even harder. The reason why that matters is because only Xbox could do Mindy Skip. So for Mindy Skip categories, OG would benefit more anyway than it already does. Because OG's better anyway because of the lag tech and faster paddy wagon and stuff. But like on hard drive, it'd be even worse. It'd be way worse, actually. It would be way worse. The need to switch to OG would be far greater than it currently is. So that's point number 2. Point number 3, hard drive model variants. So this is a tiny bit of grasping at straws, but in the worst case scenario, it can unironically be worse than disk. So, obviously, disk drives have variants. It's inevitable, even if you buy the same model manufactured on the same goddamn day, use the exact same amount as the other, it's just, same condition disk, it's just inevitable there's gonna be a tiny bit of variance. But here's the thing, right? When you buy an OG, you should be buying a 2000, maybe like late 2003 is like fine as well, but generally 2004 Xbox or 2005 Xbox. Because it'll say on the bottom of the Xbox the manufacturing date. And a lot of people on eBay do post pictures of that. Or you could just ask them as well if they respond to you. Sometimes they take days to respond, but generally, you know, yeah. Anyway, yeah, so that's definitely, no, you know, notable. When you go for an OG, you want to get one from 04 or 05. With hard drive, it doesn't matter. There's no correlation, seemingly at least. You know, people have done a lot of research, and seemingly there is no correlation between when the Xbox was made and what hard drive it'll have. However, and while the hard drives themselves have virtually no variance, the models between each other have variance. And it could be worse than just buying a 2000... You know, if you buy two 2004 Xboxes, right? They will most likely both be Samsung A drives. And, you know, buy, like, discs should be, like, average condition. They might have about, like, anywhere between, obviously, like, 0 to, like, 4 frames difference per load. And 4 frames is a lot. But on hard drive, it can be worse. You can buy an Xbox, and it's the slowest Xbox possible. And that actually can lose a lot. We don't know for sure, but I have I have a bunch of Xboxes, but I have one that I believe to have the fastest loads for the models, and one that I believe to be the slowest, and the difference between them is, like, I haven't looked in a while, but it's like 0.2 to 0.3 per load. That's a lot, dude. That's like fucking 15 to 20 plus seconds per, in an entire no-pause storage run. That's a lot. That is a lot more than disk. That's way more. You know, when it comes to the little things like cutscene loads and stuff, that'll probably be about the same, maybe a frame. But the actual big one, like the actual proper loading screens, you can get fucked. Like, it's pretty... It could be pretty bad. I could potentially be misremembering, but even if it were 10 seconds, that's still more than, like, the vast majority of 04 and 05 models. Like, they would have had to have been used extensively, like, never cleaned, or, like, you know, somebody's punched the fuck out of the Xbox. It had a horrible condition disc. Like, it is theoretically possible to buy an Xbox, get fucked, buy another one, 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 get fucked. Like, that could theoretically happen with disc as well, but if you buy two 2004 Xboxes or 2005, you're less likely to get fucked. But with hard drive, it's such a dedication. My first ever OG was the one with the slowest loads, the Crystal. So I got fucked. I would have had to have... But on disc, its loads are about average. Which you can get better, but you can certainly get worse. I was perfectly happy with average. Whereas with that, like, that's so bad that I could definitely see somebody feeling the need to switch. So hard drive, even though you'd want to switch the hard drive for the fucking... For consistency and shit, and to remove variance, ironically, you just get fucked over and over and over again. Pretty ironic there, right? So yeah, that's point number 3. Point number 4, you have to mod your Xbox. You know, if you already had the Xbox and a copy of movie and stuff, well, too fucking bad. To compete with everybody else, you gotta buy a copy of Splinter Cell, you gotta buy, like, a 2 gigabyte USB or whatever, you gotta buy, like, the OG port to USB adapter thingy, then you gotta, like, watch tutorials on, like, how to, you know, download the right files, put them on the USB, like, install a thingy that, like, converts your Xbox, your USB into a readable format for your Xbox, and you gotta go through that whole process. Then after you mod the Xbox, then you gotta either burn movie to the hard drive, or you gotta, like, you gotta FTP, and it's just, like, a whole thing. And also, a lot of people like the authenticity of speedrunning, right? Because here's the thing. If you mainly run PC, you might not understand, but there is, like, a nice feeling to the authenticity of playing on hardware, official hardware, with, like, official cables and shit, right? You know, I do use an OSSC, but other than that, my console's pretty... It is soft modded, but obviously for runs, that doesn't, like, matter. So, it's as official as it gets. So... that's obviously... Like, it feels good. Like, it feels good. You know, playing on my monitor... I am using a controller adapter, but I'm using a 360 controller, so it's close enough. Got the official disc and everything. It just feels right. It just works, you know, it feels good. And you don't have to mod your console, but forcing players to mod their console for a significant advantage, as opposed to theoretically just being able to buy the console, buying the disc, you plug it in, and it just fucking works. It does kind of suck, I mean... Yeah, but, that's not a big thing, that's why I put it last. Anyway, why not Loadless on its own? So this is the Loadless on its own disadvantages. So this is Loadless without hard drive, right? Number 1, doesn't benefit PAL as much. So, the PAL version has slower loads and a slower paddy wagon. And the slower paddy wagon thing does matter more. It also has, stronger lag, but that's not, like, a big deal, because lag is already good on NTSC. And that would benefit PAL anyway, but yeah, it also just has, like, other little things, like, a bounceless is a 3-frame window instead of a 4-frame window, but that doesn't really, But anyway... The problem with Loadless on its own is that it doesn't benefit PAL as much. So, of course, you're benefiting PAL a little bit because of, not factoring loads. However, if you have a modded OG, you just put an NTSC version of movie on your hard drive. It's pretty fucking easy to do. And if anything, it's probably easier to find a download for the NTSC version compared to the PAL version anyway. So... You just get to play on NTSC, and then you get all the NTSC advantages. You don't have to worry about PAL. So while PAL is good with Loadless anyway, with hard drive, it's even greater. Number 2, bad disk drives still get fucked over. So just like, you can buy 2 of the same model, even, and there can be variants. And you don't know truly the condition of the disc is going to be. A lot of listings on eBay don't show you the condition of the disc. And even if they do, you might not be able to see it properly. I have 2 NTSC movie discs, and that's another thing as well, where that doesn't benefit PAL as much thing, actually. I imported from America, and they're expensive. I mean, you can buy a PAL disc and convert it to NTSC. However, you can't play in 480p with a modded console. Also, you need to mod your Xbox for that. And then at that point, it's like, why not just allow a hard drive? But yeah, It's just fucking stupid, whereas, like, with hard drive, then you could just do it for, well, not for free, you need to buy the disc to mod the console, but if you were going to buy a copy of a movie anyway, then it effectively doesn't cost anything to buy a Tony Hawk or Splinter Cell, whatever the fuck, to mod your console. But yeah, as for bad disc drives still getting fucked over, like, you could buy, if you buy 100 fucking hard drives of the same model, they'll have about the same loads, all of them, maybe, like, 1 is fucked or something. But if you buy, like, 100 Samson A's from 2004, from roughly the same sort of time period, probably only, like, 80, 70 of them will be good. And again, discs as well. I have 2 discs from NTSC discs, and one of them has inconsistent loads, but even if they were consistent, it loses, like, 3 frames per load or something, which in an entire no-pore storage run, that's, like 2 to 3 seconds, and that I've missed so many PBs by, like, frames, or only gotten them by frames, or second. That does matter at the top level, that absolutely matters. So yeah, like, even though there is more theoretical potential to get fucked by hard drives, with disk drives, they're just always gonna have variants regardless, so you could easily get fucked. The disk drives are also hard to, like, find on eBay to replace and shit as well. That's another thing. Which you're not going to want to replace the hard drives, but you can. They're a pain in the ass though, but they just last a lot longer. I don't know if I put that down, so I'll just say that now. Yeah, hard drives just last way longer than disk as well. Even with the Loadless thing, which that does prevent it from, like, I'm probably getting ahead of myself actually. Let's just move on. Number 3, you have to buy the disc. Yeah, that's true. With all these discs to mod the console, like, they're all cheap. A movie isn't that cheap. If, at least, again, to import or whatever, I don't know. It could depend on where you live, but it's not, it would be cheaper to... Then again, when you buy all the modding tools, it will probably just be more expensive than movie. But then, with a modded console, you can put, like, whatever game you want on top of movie on the hard drive, and you can play whatever, But yeah, you have to buy the disc, and the disc could be bad condition, it'll eventually deteriorate. If I bought a mint condition disc, I'm sure it'd be faster loads, you know? It's just the price of playing on console. Number 4, less good Xboxes you can buy. With hard drive, like I said, you can buy them from any time period. The motherboard would have to be corroded as fuck for it to affect the hard drive. On disc, again, you want, like, late 03 to, like, I think, like, late 05 or something is when they start manufacturing Xboxes. So you only have a couple years, not even. Well, actually, yeah, it's, like, 2 years and a... Yeah, it's, like, 2 years. You have, like, 2 years of Xbox... And there's a lot of them from that time period. But you should never buy a 2002. It'll most likely have Thompson, and even Philips sucks. You know, they'll always have a bad disk drive. Like, I mean, they could have Samsung B, but unlikely. So... That's the issue with, like, load, like, there's, and again, like, there are still load variances, even if we get rid of the main load screens, and that is problematic. So, there are less good Xboxes you can buy. However, if you play on hard drive, you hardly even have to think about it. You just see hard drive for a good price, or, I mean, rather an Xbox for a good price, you just fucking buy it. You just buy it, click buy, cheap, just 20 quid, just fucking buy it, bro. Just fucking buy it. Why not? And then, if you really care that much, you can remove the clock capacitor inside of the older model. You don't remove the clock capacitor from the new models, it bricks it, but from the older consoles, you definitely want to remove the clock capacitor if it has not already been removed. Also, with hard drive as well, there's a lot of people who, like, sell hard drives on eBay, like, pre-modded. I keep saying hard drives, sorry, Xbox is pre-modded, so if you don't even want the hassle, you have to pay a little more, but if you don't want the hassle, you just fucking buy it, you know? They already got it sorted for you. Maybe if the seller's desperate, you might even be able to ask them to already put movie on it for you ahead of time if you wanted them to. Which, by the way, I'll say this as well. I don't think BFB allows this. BFB allows hard drive, but I don't think they let you use third-party hard drives. For the movie community, I'm sure we would allow third-party hard drives as long as they are not faster than the fastest hard drive official model. I don't see why we wouldn't allow that. So, if it has a replaced hard drive, like one on eBay or whatever, you might still be able to buy it and use it potentially. So, I'm just letting you know. It'd probably have to be like an old hard drive from like 2012 or something with like a low capacity, but I'm just saying, like, you can do that. Probably. I'm sure we'd allow that. I don't see why we wouldn't. I don't see the advantage for Battle to not allow it, to be honest. I haven't asked, but maybe there's like a reason for it, but I don't personally see the reason. Anyway, number 5, hard drive has benefits that do matter. So we kind of already went over it a little bit. You know, you don't have to get the disc. It benefits PAL players, like, pretty significantly. They last a lot longer. Which means replacing your model or your Xbox or your disc drive or disc, whatever, less and, you know, lasts longer. You can enable 480p if you have component cables or an HDMI cable or whatever, and it looks so good. It looks beautiful. It takes longer to die. You can use practice mods to make yourself way better at the game a lot more quickly. You know, you can upgrade your hard drive as well and use it for a ton of stuff. Battle allows hard drive, so you can use hard drive for both. And I think some other games like Jet Set use hard drive as well. So there's just, like, a bunch of benefits to it. In the long term, hard drive costs less than just keep buying discs. So that, you know, more costly in the long term, even if in the short term it is theoretically, well, on average, a little more expensive generally, depending on the situation. So yeah, just, like, a lot of benefits and stuff anyway, but the big one is practice mods. There are some tricks I legitimately feel like are not really worth learning on disc, but on hard drive they are if you download the practice mods. But yeah, just more load consistency as well. And again, you can just buy it from whatever year, and it most likely will just be completely fine. Just fucking great. Also, the loads being faster just feels good. You have less downtime, so you have less time to, like, take a drink, eat, take a bite of something. But the loads go from, like, 5.5 to 6.5 seconds or something to, like, 3 seconds. Like, it's pretty nice. It feels really good. That's not every load, though. Some loads are really fast anyway on disk drive, and hard drive only makes it faster by, like, a second, but still, like, it just feels great, dude, to have loads that fast. And even though, like, disk does have, like, you know, the lag and stuff, there are just several moments in the run where hard drive just wouldn't deliver aids to the speedrun, you know. SD 102, Rubber 2, Natherman Tunnel, I think. Yeah. Like, Knucklehead and Neptune. All of the sliding and driving levels, really, except for, like, Rock Slide. You know? Like, you could get, like, an amazing sandwich driving, and it just doesn't gold because your load was randomly, like, 5 frames slower than normal for no reason. Rare, but it does happen. Hard drive, that shit ain't gonna happen. But yeah, there are advantages. So, number 6. Hard drive can't be disk in most cases, therefore it does little harm. So we already went over why disk is poggers. However, like, one thing as well is that, like, if we're just gonna allow Loadless on its own, like, what advantage does that bring compared to hard drive? And there are a couple, to allowing Loadless with hard drive. But the thing is, right, is that, okay, so hard drive also loads, so, like, when I said that there was load variance, that also includes in-game cutscenes and transitions from the menu to load screens as well. On hard drive, they're just pretty damn consistent every single time. Like, having nearly no variance. Really, if really any, for, like, a lot of the loads and shit. However, on hard drive, the loads would be instant. Well, I don't know why I said however. Yeah, so the loads would be even more instant. So it sounds like, oh, well, it'd be faster than using disk then. But that's not really true. That would only be the case in like a small handful of categories. In the majority of them, disk would be either realistically faster because of, you know, buffers and stuff. So even though hard drive could be theoretically faster, disk will just always be faster in actual runs by a little bit. And there are other categories because of lag clips like 100%, where I feel like most likely hard drive wouldn't even be theoretically faster. So if the concern with hard drive, if the major concern is like, oh, it made the game AIDS, well, if it's not going to make the game faster in most cases anyway, then it's not really doing any harm. It'd only be for small categories like Frogfish and cheapest and some platforming ILs. And for the record, in Frogfish, most people would probably still play on disc anyway, because hard drive would only be like a couple seconds faster or something. Like 2-3 seconds faster, I'd imagine. So disc would still be used unless you're trying to squeeze every last second out of, so basically world record level. For everyone else, it doesn't matter. So yeah, I mean, if it's not gonna do much harm anyway, like what that essentially allows then is just like, you could argue then, like, why allow, you know, like, why not just allow hard drive then, if hard drive can't be... Actually, am I talking nonsense? I kinda am, I think, never mind. Yeah. So, the gist of it is a hard drive wouldn't even be disk in most situations. And then I guess you could argue then, like, well, what's the advantage to allowing hard drive then? But, like, if your disk drive is horrible, then you can just use hard drive. If you weren't going to do lag anyway, then hard drive is better. If you don't want to buy the disk, then hard drive is your friend. Or if you, in real time, like, it'd still be faster to use hard drive. The way that we'd probably go about doing this is that we'd probably have in-game time and then, like, real time, or maybe, like, loadless in real time. So if two people tied in in-game time, then it would look at the loadless to see who actually got, or I mean, the real time, and then, you know, who'd have the faster run would be the, you know, so on hard drive, you'd still have that little benefit, but even just, like, even in real time, like, it just gives you like a little more time to do runs. You get through no cheese a little faster. The pressure, you know, every little bit of the run is like with loads at all is just a little faster, and you might genuinely just love that so much that you really think that it's worth playing on that, despite not being able to lag. And if you really do feel that way, that's completely fair. And if people want a more consistent, like, you know, more easier run with the full benefit, you know, full time save, then just play on a disc. But there'd be such little time difference until like top level between loadless and hard drive to where loadless hard drive to where they're both very viable, very viable, and the hard drive just is better even until like you want to do lag stuff. So if it's doing very little harm, next to no harm, then why not allow it anyway? And that's the entire point I was making. There's no... If we were to allow loadless, there's basically no real reason to not allow hard drive as well. There are a couple things, but like I said, we'll get into that. Alright. Finally, number 7. Can't allow anything that speeds up cutscene loads and other small things. So, we'll get more into that later, but basically, if we allow loadless, that also benefits GameCube and PS2 and stuff. However, what we could also allow is Nintendo, which is, like, using Wii hard drive. The reason why we don't allow that currently is because it makes in-game cutscenes faster than what a GameCube can consistently replicate. So, it gives you an unfair advantage. However, if we're going to allow loadless anyway, then GameCube would still have that advantage. Wii would still have that advantage. Nintendo would, but so would Xbox hard drive. And at that point, it's just like, you know, it's so negligible that who cares? Especially because every person on planet Earth has modded their Wii anyway. Like every fucking person on planet Earth not only owns. I have 2 Wiis. You probably have a Wii. There's no way you don't have a Wii, actually. What person doesn't have a goddamn Wii? And also, it's literally free at this point to mod you. And even if you don't want to do the free method, or like you want to put stuff on the SD card, SD cards are really goddamn cheap, and modding your Wii is just objectively good anyway. And it's super cheap, super easy, super fast. Like, there's no reason not to mod your Wii unless you want authenticity. And if you care that much, you could buy a second Wii, because they're really cheap, and then just mod that for runs. And at that point, then, you might as well just buy an Xbox. We could also allow PCSX2, which is the PlayStation 2 emulator. Again, its loads are too fast, and its cutscene loads are too fast, but we could allow it. We could just straight up allow it if we're gonna do loadless. Because, again, Xbox has the advantage over PCSX2 anyway. And PS2 can't do MIDI skip and shit, so, literally... So you could play on that if you want. You could allow Dolphin fast disk transfer, which we don't allow because it speeds up the loads, but it doesn't matter now. You could do PS2 hard drive. You could even put an SSD in there if you want. It doesn't. Who cares? It doesn't matter. PS3 backwards compatible. Or not backwards compatible. Digital PS3 SSD. Well, we allow that anyway, actually. But then it's not even like a... We have to allow that because, like, replacing your hard drive with a PS3, with an SSD in your PS3 is so common that everybody does it anyway, and it's just good for your console anyway, it makes it last a lot longer. But now there won't even be, like, a gray area with that, it'll just be allowed. But the massive one, the absolutely massive thing, is ZEMU. So, ZEMU is an Xbox... I think it's supposed to be XEMU, I'm not calling it that, I'm calling it ZEMU, it sounds better. So, also CXBX Reloaded, but that emulator kind of sucks. So ZEMU is an Xbox emulator, we can't allow it, its loads are way too fast, and its cutscene loads are too fast. However, with loadless, it doesn't matter. Now, it does still have a problem of having incorrect physics for the paddy wagon. We might just be able to allow it anyway, but even if we have to wait until the physics were corrected, we'll still be able to allow ZEMU much faster than currently. I've been waiting all goddamn year. I thought, you know, movie Xbox EMU would be a thing by the end of the year. But there's been no advancements made to it for the entire year, and then some. So, and it's the end of July. It might take years and years and years. But even if we wanted to wait until the paddy wagon physics were correct, we would only have to wait probably like a year from now at most. Like, we'd be able to allow it. And if we just said, fuck it, we could just allow it now. and that'd be enormous. Like, the big thing stopping people from being able to run the game is Xbox. You know, the most respected category is no pause storage, and that requires Xbox because of Mindy Skip. But if you have ZEMU, it doesn't matter, and like, that is insane. That is a massive, massive thing. Otherwise, we have to wait until... And you could say, oh, well, what about hard drive? ZEMU's loads are even faster on hard drive, so we can't allow it, even if we allow hard drive. Unless its loads were made slow enough to be the same as hard drives, but that's kind of specific. They probably wouldn't do that. Or they'd probably be like... That'd probably be very late into the emulator's life, compared to now. But yeah, we could just fucking allow ZEMU, and that'd be so big. But there's also PCSX2, Nintendo, Dolphin fast disk speed transfer thingy, whatever it's called. We could do it all. The game would be as accessible as possible. Like, why not? Why not do that? But if we don't allow hard drive, then we can't do that. So that is the massive thing with allowing hard drive with Loadless. Otherwise, if we allow hard drive on its own, we can't allow those other things. Well, we might be able to allow Nintendo anyway, but we can't allow PCSX2, we can't allow ZEMU, we can't allow Dolphin fast disk speeds. You know, just make the game less accessible. So that's all the reasons to why they need to be paired together. You could have hard drive on its own, but you can't have Loadless without hard drive. That's just, like, ridiculous, is basically the point I was getting across. And now, we are finally getting to the Loadless advantages, and this will include hard drive. So when I say Loadless from now on, it includes hard drive. Loadless advantage number 1, significantly reduces variance. While there is still variance, well, I will specify with this that this is about disk. While there is still variance with, like, transitions to loads, cutscene loads, text boxes, the big one was the actual loading screen with the lifesaver, and now that's not a thing. It's just null. It doesn't matter. And that was the big one. Like, across disks, across hard drives, across disk drive variants. Again, as long as you have, like, Samson A, like, there'll be little variance with, like, the cutscenes. And stuff like that. Whereas, like, before, like, it can really matter, but this will just be a little thing. It'll just be, like, a second or two difference throughout an entire run, as opposed to, like, 4 or 5 seconds, potentially. So, it matters a lot less, to the point where it only really matters at, like, the super high top level, world record level, essentially, for the vast majority of categories. Number 2, benefits PAL players. We already went over that. But yeah, it's even on disc, it's good for PAL players, but on hard drive, it'd be even better. And again, if we allow, like, emulators and shit, then it's even better. Then you don't even have to FTP movie or whatever. You can literally just play on ZEMU. Number 3, allows GameCube and PS2 to more fairly compete. And this is a big one, too. While they can't do Mindy Skip, they could fairly compete in a few categories, actually. Hundo, all tokens, what's it called? Cheap percent. No major glitches. Like, a lot of people don't want to run this game because they have to play on GameCube, because, you know, GameCube's loads are really good. GameCube's loads are like 12 to 15 seconds, I think, per load, and PS2's like 18 to like 20, I think, or like 22 or something. Like, it's pretty big difference, right? And it would just be okay, so they still load cutscenes very slowly and stuff, and sometimes text boxes, but it'd be so much closer. You'd feel the need to switch to Xbox, like, a lot less quickly. A lot slower, rather. I can't English today. So that's fucking massive. I should also say, by the way, that I got, like, 6 hours of sleep. I woke up, like, 3 or 4 times. Dude, I got such bad sleep. That's why maybe I should have waited to record this, but I feel like I'm high energy enough. Dude, I'm hungry as well. Anyway, so yeah, that's a pretty big thing. Number 4, easier to get a good Xbox/disc. We already kind of went over that. If you have, like, just, like, a Samson A that's just, like, kind of dirty, or a Samson B, they will load the in-game cutscenes and stuff roughly as fast as each other. But what qualifies now as a good Xbox is just like, there's a much wider range of Xboxes that you can purchase. Because again, you can just mod them and that's the end of it, but if you do want to stay on disc, if it's a Samsung or a Hitachi, there'll be very little difference between them, so there's just like a lot, you know, you might not need to clean the Xbox necessarily, or even if the disc is bad, it might not matter anywhere near as much. It's just like a lot less hassle. And you can just buy, like, if you found like a really good price Xbox, but it's like late 2003, looks a bit dusty, it's probably completely fine, honestly. So just like a wider range of Xboxes you can purchase. But if we you know, that could also apply to the hard drive thing, and you know, with that in particular, you could just buy any of them and they're mostly going to be like completely fine. So it's a lot easier to get a good Xbox and a good disc, you know. Number 5, more options. We already went over that. Zemu, Nintendo, PCSX2, we already went over that. Number 6, don't feel nearly as obligated to switch to OG. Kind of went over that too. Because GameCube and PS2 would be very close to Xbox, you just don't really feel the need to switch as quickly. And even on, like, even if you have a shitty Xbox, you just mod it, and the time difference between it and OG and disc is low enough to the point where, like, only a top level are you really gonna care about using disc. And even then, hard drive would still be faster for, like, cheap and stuff, if you care about that, so yeah, already went over that. And number 7, you have 2 times to go for, so there's more incentive to keep playing. This is pretty niche, so I put it at the end, right? But let's say that real time you got like 105.59, but on hard drive, well, I mean, loadless, you got like 103, right, 104.00 or something. I'm just saying random numbers, but like, let's say it's like 104.00. You know, normally it's like, dude, my run was too good, I don't know where to go now, there's no good time to go for, I'm just gonna move on, or I'm just gonna stop playing the game. That little thing, that little extra incentive of like, oh, well, with this specific timing, I'm milliseconds away from my time. Or even like 02 or 03, it's like, I'm really close to the time, I might as well keep playing, because it's such like a little difference between, like, the time I want and the time I have now. That's just a little extra incentive to keep going. So it's pretty niche, but I just thought I'd mention it. And now we have the gray areas, not really an advantage or a disadvantage, or it depends on the person, like, you know, this can vary a lot. So I only have 3 things. Gray area number 1, 2 frames that add loads save more. So 2 frames, if they add a load, they were automatically not fast on GameCube and PS2, but now, like, they're more skillful because now, like, they are now faster because the load is now negated. But yeah, 2 frame tokens that add loads save even more, so if you fuck them up, it loses even more, and that also applies to hard drive, and it can just be really toxic and shit. But on OG, that's not a real issue. You know, and some people would argue that, you know, that's just, you know, if you miss a thing, you should get punished for it, so that's just, you know, again, it's gonna depend on the person. But on OG, it's gonna barely matter anyway, on disc. Number 2, mistakes that force loads cost less. There are not that many mistakes that force reloads. One I can think of is accidentally destroying the crate for 3 meter. And then you have to, like, reload the area and, like, grab, and so you can, like, actually redo the trick. Depending on how you fuck that up, you can either go through 1 or 2 extra loads. And it'd be less costly. You might be able to barely PB. It's hard to think of, like, other instances, but, like, you know, if you softlock in Sunday, like, with Sunday Jump, you can softlock. If you're doing, like, Hundo, and you're on, like, Sunday lap 1 on the time challenge, and you softlock, like, you'll lose less time to reload. It's just super, it's so minor, but I just thought I'd mention it. Number 3, this isn't what Battle does. It might look weird from an outsider's perspective to do it like this, because Battle just allows hard drive, and that's kind of the end of it. However, like, Battle's lag is terrible. They have to, like, learn fast mashing techniques, and it can depend on the disk drive you have, like, how good the game lags and shit. like, Battle hard drive is almost exclusively good, whereas Movie actually has, like, a lot of, like, little benefits, but the main one is the lag. And at the end of the day, we're a different community, it's a different game. It may be the same engine, but with different circumstances, different ways of going about shit. And even then, if those fuckers care so much anyway, they can still just play on fucking hard drive. When I say those fuckers, I just mean, like, anybody who doesn't like the idea of Loadless. You can just play on hard drive anyway. And Loadless will just be done for you. You just install, like, a program or whatever, and then it's done for you. Like, even if you think it's stupid, you could just focus on the hard drive times. And because the variance is so minor on hard drive that a Loadless thing doesn't really even matter, so it doesn't even negatively affect them or anything. Like, they shouldn't care, you know what I mean? Alright, Loadless disadvantages. I thought of 5 things, there might be more, and some things are bigger than other things, but yeah. Hold on, let me have a quick sip of my drink. I'm fucking thirsty. I'm also hungry. I'm gonna have an energy drink today, I think. I feel like I've earned it for doing fuck all the week. Alright, so number 1, still screws over 360. At the end of the day, we can't get around it. Loadless would help a lot, but at the end of the day, Mindy skip categories would still fuck over 360. Now, with Zemu, it kinda doesn't matter, but it's still a little bit of a gray area on if we'd actually allow it. And even then, some people might just not want to play on Emu, they might just think it's cringe, you know, they might want to... They already have a 360, or they already have a Movie, they already bought a capture card and everything, like, they just want to use what they already have. And they would just get fucked over even more. OG is already a lot better than 360, and Loadless would mitigate it a tiny... would make it even worse. But... Or rather, like, you know, already with disk, it make it, you know, and hard drive, but with Loadless, like, it's even worse. Number 2, can't remove all the variants. We already went over that. The game, like, pauses a little bit before loading screens and stuff, and it, like... There's also text boxes that can have, like, a frame or two of variants. In-game cutscenes is the big one, though. You can have just a few frames. On hard drive, that's kind of a non-issue, pretty much. And on the emulators as well. But when it comes to, like, disc, you know, we're trying to make the game more accessible and more fair, and we are doing that, but it is still, there's just a little bit of variance that we just cannot get rid of. So if you're playing on a really bad Thompson, it can still easily choke a cutscene load by like half a second. But again, you know, hard drive would fix that. You know, disk drives will eventually die, and hard drive will be needed, and emulators will be needed anyway. But I feel like this way of going about it allows us to enjoy disk as much as possible before switching to hard drive. Anyway, number 3, hard drive wins in some categories, and having 2 fastest versions is cringe. It's basically just some ILs, some platforming ILs, I mean, and, like, Frogfish, but nobody's ever actually gonna go for that, and the actual one that people can benefit from every single time is Cheap%. Because, it'll transition from menu to load a little faster in the menu. And you'll skip the cutscene, the No Cheese cutscene faster, and you'll skip the Neptune cutscenes faster. Like, hard drive just is faster with, on Cheap%, just every single time. There's not even, like, a theoretical thing to it. And having 2 fastest versions is kind of cringe, because, like, if you're playing on disc, then the fastest way to, like... If you want to compete in some categories, then you literally just have to play on fucking hard drive. You have to mod your console. However, my counterpoint to that is that nobody cares about platforming ILs, and very few care about Cheap%. So, yeah. And modding your Xbox is good anyway, for the reasons we already went over. So it's not like a big deal. It's not like you have to get used... It's not like you have to learn completely different tricks or anything. It's just like faster load and shit. And also, hard drive would be quite a lot better at intermediate level for people who don't do, like, lag stuff. So, so again, on 360, fucks you over even more and shit. Number 4, GameCube might... GameCube could be faster for 100% on all tokens. We don't actually know. But it might be, because GameCube has a faster paddy wagon, and it skips cutscenes instantly, in PowerPoint cutscenes. Instantly. Whereas on disc, they have to, like, load, and then it takes, like, a second, and then the game lags even more, and then it skips it. And then even on hard drive, you have to wait, like, a second still. And as for, upgrades, it takes, like, 2 seconds on disc and hard drive, whereas, like, on... GameCube, like, the instant. It's hard to say, though, because no buffers, like, no lag clips, but I think it would probably at least theoretically be faster, and that is kind of cringe, you know. GameCube has really slow loads, it can infinite load, which is really aids, like, getting, you know, it feels different, it has easier guess jumps and BBBH jumps, and no lag, it's just, like, kind of cringe. There's also another thing of, like, pause storage. I don't want to, like, complicate things even more. But GameCube and PS2 pause storage are currently allowed for Hundo because they're still not faster compared to Xbox. Just doing Xbox... We don't allow pause storage for Xbox in Hundo because the way of allowing pause storage, you pretty much have to allow your hard drive... fucking hell, dude. You basically have to allow... You basically have to mod your Xbox. But there is an official way to do it, even though no one's ever going to do it. So we allow it for any percent, but nothing else. But, like, GameCube and PS2 could... If we allowed Loadless and then GameCube and PS2 hard drive, they would be the fastest for those categories. So my solution to that would either be a subcategory for Xbox or to ban pause storage as a whole outside of any percent. Which is arbitrary, but we could pretty much do whatever we want, you know, it's our fucking game. And also, it's a thing, again, of having multiple fastest versions. It's just cringe, dude. It's just, like, annoying to get used to and shit. And then you have to buy multiple consoles, and it's just, like, it's... And finally, might look stupid to outsiders. Like I said, it kind of doesn't matter what other people think. But, I mean, it matters a little bit. And it might look stupid. It's like, oh, well, then why don't you just allow hard drive, you know? Loadless is still gonna have load variants. You know, oh, you're doing it just because of lag, etc. Like, that's so, like, you complicating everything when you could just allow hard drive and just have that be that. Or you're complicating everything when you could just let variants be variants and just accept that that's just, like, the disadvantage of running a console speed game. But again, like, this solution allows the most, like, this is objectively the most fair possible way of doing it. And it is also the way of just making the game as accessible as possible. So even though it does look kind of silly, it just allows the game to live and breathe for as long as possible. And if you know anything about this game, then I feel like most people, you know, when you really get into it, I feel like if a lot of people give it a chance, I do genuinely feel like it'd be for the best. That's basically everything. It's possible that we may never allow Loadless. It would take so long to like retime everybody's runs on the boards. It'd be such a nightmare. But yeah, that's basically it. I seriously do not think that hard drive is the way to go unless it's with Loadless, and I do not think Loadless is the way to go without hard drive. So I think the future movie, it's not needed now at all, but I think the future movie should be Loadless plus hard drive. As as things... Even then, even though hard drives will last way longer, they'll still break eventually. And we can allow third-party hard drives, but what do they do? What do we do if people accidentally buy ones that are faster than what's official? Do we just allow those? Probably not. And then we play on emulators, but then they don't have lag either, and it's just like... They're not good right now, and they will be good eventually, but... You know, it's just like... I feel like this is, like, the best way of doing it if we want to make any change to the game to make it more fair or whatever. Anyway, my time's up. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.